Good morning to one and all. Respected dignitaries on the stage, Dr. Lilly John, Dr. Sanjeeva, Dr. Manohar, Dr. Vijay, Shekhar, and of course my dear friend and classmate of 40 years, Dr. Jawaz. Good morning to all the luminaries and participants of this conference, Disha. Disha, as in all languages or in all communities, means to show direction. I think Disha, as a charitable trust, is doing great service to the society in making them realize what lifestyle they can choose and what would be the various treatment options to take care of their health if they become diabetic. As all of us know, we all are standing to become the diabetic capital of the world by 2025. So yes, we all have to look at being together, all specialities, multidisciplinary approach to see that this particular disease or lifestyle modification which creates grave consequences on our body, be it in the cardiology wing, ophthalmology, the renal complications. As all of us know, these three are the endocrine system of the body. We all know that we all have to come together to stop our patients or our diabetic patients having a bad quality of life. So as we all have learned from the very first book we all open when we become MBBS students as the Hutchison's Manual of Clinical Methods, the first thing he says is to look at your patient as a whole. And this further emphasizes, especially looking at diabetes, emphasizes that we have to have a holistic approach to our patients, not just looking at the metabolic part or the cardiology related incidents. So yes, we have to teach our youngsters to look at the patient as a whole and to consider our patients, or rather what I should say is we have to consider that we have to create a wellness society rather than a disease-oriented society which comes to us only when they have problems. Towards this, Disha is doing a lot of things with their recent advances in technology and with the great pharmaceutical companies which are associated in again going into greater research. Together, I'm sure we all have to hold hands and move towards making our lives a better lives in this society. And as healthcare providers, as I mentioned, we have to create awareness from the youngster to the older age people that it is important that we alter our lifestyle because stress remains the biggest instigator of all these problems, be it the insulin resistance, the chronic inflammation of our body, and the effect it has on the various parts of the body. Cardiovascular accidents remain the topmost cause for morbidity, and diabetes associated with it and dyslipidemia or hyperlipidemic states add on to it. Well, as an ophthalmologist, we have always looked at diabetes again as one of the leading causes of blindness as well. Diabetic retinopathy tends to be the leading cause of blindness, and it's not just in the urban population but in the rural population as we have seen in our many studies. At the Regional Institute of Ophthalmology, Minto, we have a constant diabetic screening of the rural population as well, and at every significant evaluation of the patient, we look at their hypertensive state and the other altered system in the, where be the cardiovascular system, the nephrology part. So no patient goes without getting their hypertension tested or the BP tested or the renal parameters, especially the microalbuminuria. So these are what we as ophthalmologists still try to look at the other systems because diabetes is a multifactorial disease and affects every part of the body. So I'm very glad that Disha, as a India group, has been in community service since very long back in 2012 and has been conducting high quality diabetes education programs. And as all of us know, I think the World Diabetic Day is again coming closer. November 14th happens to be the World Diabetic Day. And world over, all of us in all the disciplines come together to make it a great awareness program so that we give the onus to the patients or the our community brothers and sisters to understand what can happen to their body when they become diabetic and what are the things or what are the high risk factors that they should be aware of. And Disha having conducted 25 such programs, so I thought you said 30th program, sure been great in imparting knowledge about this and various other chronic diseases to the medical community. I think the greatest stress should be on altering our lifestyle. See, all of us have great knowledge from what we have got from our textbooks or lifestyle experiences about the disease, but how our skills help our community to remain a wellness society, wellness community, rather than always treating them when it comes with problems. I think that aspect we have to make every youngster realize. And the second aspect which Disha is highlighting about the community participation. I always tell my students Monday to Friday, do your studies, study well. Friday evening, have your disco or whatever, go out, de stress yourself. But Saturday, be with your family, and Sunday, again, go back to community and do your service. I think if all our youngsters can get into this stream of work where they can have a life balance both with family, understand and take care of their knowledge which they have to upgrade, and yet come back to society for at least half a day, we are, as a society, will be making a lot of difference to our brothers and sisters of the community. I congratulate Disha for doing this, and I'm happy to be part of it today on this inaugural program. I'm sure this conference is going to add on much more knowledge to each one of you, and your knowledge will again be taken in a broader platform to serve the society. Thank you again for having me here. I wish the conference a grand.
We had to postpone the program once or twice because of the prevailing situations, and we good to be back here. As Vijay said, we are all a group of friends. Actually, it started with a journey. We went for a trip, and then as we were partying, we thought we'll also get together for the sake of society and for the medical fraternity wherever possible. I think we did a lot of social education initiatives initially till the COVID time. After that, we sort of moved back, and we're more focused now on the CMEs, but we'll again get back to the giving back to the society. As we always believe that social work, whatever little we can do, is our responsibility, not charity. Social work is never a charity. Social work is our responsibility. So the real family of Disha is more here, and this family grows, and always the core members are always there with us. And I sincerely thank everyone. And our patrons, Professor Lilly John, I would like to welcome on the dais, and the other patron, Major General Professor K.J. Shetty sir. He just celebrated his 94th birthday in the US, and he is still going strong. He's a great motivation. Both of them are great motivation to not only Disha team, I think anyone else who have known them. So I'd like to welcome Professor Lilly John, and also our chief guest, Mrs. Rathod Madam. She is the Director of Medical Education. Director of Medical Education, and we are happy to have you, Madam, on the dais. So we don't bore you with long lectures. So I would request all of the dignitaries and few from the not from the audience, the heartfelt senior colleagues of us who have been a guiding force, like Shekhar sir, Sir Arvind sir, and also Basanagudappa sir for the lamp lighting for now. CMC Vellore said, no, you go there. You don't have to take it immediately. You work in medicine in CMC Vellore. So a friend of mine, Dr. Balaji, was doing his nephrology at that time, doing his DND. So I asked him, he said, come along, I have my quarters, you can stay here. You can do some residency program. Officially, you will not be able to get in, but unofficially, if you are working free, it's okay, you can stay at my house.
could get into medicine, but I could get into hematology. But I would spend some time getting into the medicine wards, talking to Dr. Lilly John, would watch her a lot. In fact, once I had asked her, what do we do after this? In fact, she had said, oh, you can do your diabetology. This is going to be the future. Madam, you may not remember that particular day, but that was one of the things which actually drove me. And just want to tell you all that if there were to be electronic health records, then in 86, probably Dr. Lilly John would have had at least 1,000 publications in the field of diabetes because her work related to OHAs in pregnancy, I mean, we can't remember, we can't forget it. Such a tremendous amount of work, and all of them used to be on OHAs, and they would see you, I mean, thousands of pregnancies very successfully you have seen during your time in CMC Fellow. So that's the short thing. So I like three Lillys. One is, of course, Dr. Lilly John. Second, Lilly, I will speak only with Shekhar and Basangadappa later. Even though we don't share that particular Lilly any longer. The third Lilly, I must thank Eli Lilly and Company here because one of the investigational monoclonal antibodies has saved my life of my wife. Still not released in the world. She was diagnosed with leiomyosarcoma with 7 months time given to her 7 years back. Eli Lilly continued to make this investigational drug. They continued to send it to her. It's been 7 years and she's doing extremely well. And the drug is still not released anywhere in the world. So that's three Lillys for me. Thank you, Disha, for the directions. And thanks to the chief guest who also showed us the vision. So I talk with this, but then I don't think you need to really look at the stage because nothing much is going to be new. You know, most of my slides used to have 73 million or 77 million IDF data, etc., etc. And suddenly, my teacher, Professor Mohan, and of course, I studied under Professor Viswanathan, and Dr. Mohan was also our teacher at that time. And Dr. Mohan suddenly comes out with this group and then this ICMR data which just got published and suddenly says, guys, you're looking at 101 million diabetics. It's not 77 million any longer. So today, I and you must remember it's 101 million. And look at hypertension, generalized obesity, abdominal obesity, and dyslipidemia. It's a huge problem. This is 2023 data. Fine. For 35 years, including Dr. Lilly John, Shekhar, Asum Gowda, all of us have been attending so many meetings, so many new drugs, so many new ideas. Nothing has changed when it comes to cardiovascular events. Increased by 160%. ISD increased by 127%. Hemorrhagic stroke increased by 56%. Cardiovascular death increased by 132%. This is after having comprehensive care of our diabetic patients, and we think we are doing everything to our patient. This is the world data. So all of us must take a back seat. And Disha, which is showing the direction, also should have a look at this. Okay, we think we know everything, but then nothing has changed when it comes to the end point, which is the death. So this is absolutely a shocking news. Nothing seems to be changing. Well, we have been talking about treating, multi-pronged approach, comprehensive care. Despite everything, it's leading to heart attack. And we have also been talking for the last now 5-6 years that diabetes is no more just the glycemic approach. It's turning out to be cardiometabolic, renal and vascular in approach. Are we equipped? We are excellent in writing the medication. Prescriptions are perfect. But are we doing enough? Is the big question. Let's look at the ADA guidelines. So, what do ADA say? Most important, they say, is please assess for the complications, and that's comprehensive care. Then you set your HbA1c goal for that individual, make it individualized, and then plan your treatment. I mean, our country is absolutely heterogeneous. Every 50, 60 kilometers it changes. Language changes, habits change, food habits change. So you can't have one single plan. So you have to see what type of patients you are seeing, and you have to have different plans of idea. Now, apart from the medical management of what drugs to start, whether it is a GLP-1 or an SGLT2 to start with, what to move next. See, farmers will always fight, you write my drug, my insulin, etc., etc. But I think the important thing is we know what drugs to write. We are good in writing insulins, etc. But the success of the treatment or your prescription is based on several other factors. Patient education, dietary counseling, individualized targets, shared decision making, motivational sessions, address mental health, physical exercise, monitoring, and most importantly, regular follow-up. Now, what we are actually missing is what is on the right side. We are great when it tried to write in the prescriptions. So in 2014, under Dr. Shaukat Sadikot, we wanted to see what is the status of complications in new diabetics. This was a country-wide trial that we did, collection of the data. So this was called Cindy, a very catchy name, and we were very particular, we will call it Cindy. We were looking at three complications: neuropathy, retinopathy, nephropathy on day one of diagnosis, across age groups, across India. You can see neuropathy is prevalent, 6% retinopathy on day one of diabetes, nephropathy, few cases of ISD. And we also looked at the CV risk factors. This is in 2014. And then what we see is, well, there is obesity, there is dyslipidemia, and there is hypertension. Therefore, the CV events are happening. And this actually came from Dr. Juliana Chan. And this is a study called JADE, Southeast Asia. So she said, we will collect the data from Southeast Asia and then try to see almost similar. Now, that was the time when we were seeing articles in Time and across the world. Type 2 diabetes is occurring early. It's happening early. It was there right in front of us. And we had to get ideas from the Western world to start looking for type 2 diabetes in youngsters. And we knew the age at onset is already coming down. It was well below 40 years in India, and it was also happening in people below 20. Type 2 diabetes, less than 20. So in 2016, we said, let's look at all any diabetics less than 40 years and see what is the complication rate in them. This was called SINTI-2. We published in 2016. Less than 40 years, on day one of diabetes, 25% of them smoke, 27% hypertension diagnosed for the first time, rechecked several days, and then the diagnosis came. BMI more than 23, because that is the cutoff we have to take in India. We should not follow the international standards. Somebody is overweight, more than 23. 83%. 62% dyslipidemia with an LDL of more than 100. At that time, if you had used the ADA guidelines to use statins, 96% of our patients need statins on day one of diabetes. So, end onset diabetes at diagnosis, not very common. These are the people who are working in .com companies. It's not very common for them. Before this talk, I said, okay, let's see what's happening in 2023. What is the snapshot of patients coming to Dicon Hospital? 804 patients, BMI more than 25, 60%, BMI more than 23, 70, hypertension 70%, LDL more than 100, 55%. Look at the average HbA1c, 9.4. Okay, this is all age groups. Day one of coming to the hospital. Diabetic retinopathy, 48%. Neuropathy, 94%. Nephropathy, 23%. IHD in 8%. This is a snapshot from their case sheet. Then what I did was, all right, let's look at young onset diabetes, absolutely newly diagnosed, less than 3 months, who are not taken any medications. So we could find about 56 patients. BMI more than 25, 65%. Hypertension, 52%. LDL more than 100, 71%. HbA1c average 9.2. Smoking, 18%. No medication. Diagnosis less than 3 months. Age less than 40 years. When you looked at the complications, retinopathy 6%. Neuropathy in 14%. Nephropathy, IST already. And they have absolutely no clue. The biggest question they ask is, why is it happening to me? I don't have any symptoms. Every day, few patients will say, you must be joking. I don't have blood pressure. I don't have high sugars. Something must be wrong with your lab. And these youngsters are going to be asking us the same questions. Doc, when I should be in college, when I should be enjoying, and as the chief guest told us, you want to party on a Friday evening, on a Saturday evening. I mean, doctors don't get that opportunity. You're not that lucky yet. What's happening? I mean, these are the people who are with the, different crowd. They belong to the present generation. These are the questions that I and you have to face. What's up, doc? What's happening? We need answers. So, from Dr. Juliana Chan's article in Lancet in 2014, I have taken the comments. At that time, this was the final line that she actually wrote and added it to the article. Young onset type 2 diabetes is a huge problem. Requires changes at all levels. Restructuring of the healthcare system to the changing of clinicians' mindset. And this challenge is immense, but immediate action is needed to improve the future of these young lives. It's been 10 years, and this came out 10 years back. All right. How can we now prevent diabetes? This is the big question. All of us, as President of Diabetes India, previously as President of RSSJ, all of us have been talking about preventing diabetes. Now the question is, again Dr. Mohan sends this few days and says, hey Arvind, if you're giving this talk, you just add this particular slide. This is the meta-analysis, Global Health, which got published in Lancet about diabetes prevention activities. And finally, he says, less than half reported are receiving fundamental prevention activities. We have been talking, and we are not doing anything effectively to actually prevent diabetes. So these findings from this article, they want to say, offer foundational evidence to inform future global targets for diabetes prevention and to strengthen the policies and programs to prevent continued increase in diabetes worldwide. I just want to emphasize one point. We all are clinicians. The problem with us is we are not finding time to do other activities apart from seeing our patients. So, we need to really think about it. Now, how can I contribute to something different where I am not really seeing the patients? Now, the first question that comes to all of us is, I'm sure Dr. Lilly would agree, and Shekhar and others who are seniors will agree. I mean, where do you start the prevention? Okay. Now, if you think I will change the lifestyles, Dr. Yajnik will say, boss, it's not going to be useful. You should start before this lady becomes pregnant and before the fetus is already in it. So the fetal programming is the stage which is the best for prevention. Okay, we are not going to get that stage. It's very difficult. What about childhood? Who do you pick up? Where do we begin? Which school? Which college? Adolescent age group? No, they're not going to listen to us. They think that, okay, something is wrong with you. Gin is never a sin and whiskey is not risky. Saturday evenings, cricket matches. So the generation has changed, but unfortunately, our ideas have not changed. So we have to think of something to start somewhere. Okay, preconception stage in ladies, or pick only the overweight population. Take all people with positive family history but who do not have diabetes. At what age to pick up? 20, 25, 30? Do we have to pick people with only hypertension? Do we have to pick people with IFG, IGT? So there are several questions. I don't have answers. Yesterday, I was just telling the lady who had come with the mother, I think everything is fine, your mother will be great, but I think you need to lose weight. And she was at least 25 kgs overweight. And I said, look, you are overweight. हाँ नहीं डॉक्टर मैं overweight नहीं हूँ मैं थोड़ा plumpy हूँ. So these are the new terms. Okay, you can't call them fat, you can't call them overweight. So now the new term is if anybody is overweight, you call them plumpy. Right. Now, some of the well-informed young diabetics do ask the question. I can't change my parents. You can't change genetics. Why did I take birth in India? If Indians have a high risk of diabetes, what am I going to do? Maintain my weight, modification of diet, exercise, avoid sedentary habits. Age, except for Dr. Manohar, nobody can reduce the age. Vasantama, yes, he looks stunning. I know his kids are already married, and then, as grandfathers, we can't really change the age. When we talk of the other Lilly, we will see what age three of us have given here. Hypertension, dyslipidemia, I mean, you can't change anything. It has already come in. How are we really going to start our prevention program? This is known, this is already in the literature. Now the question is, can we target stress? There was a good talk by Dr. Kiran Kumar, I was just listening to him, but that was about depression and how stress is contributing to depression. So I'm going back by one step. Before depression happens, is stress something that we can prevent so that we at least delay the onset? And we know from our COVID days how steroids actually induce diabetes in people who are susceptible. So we don't have to go through the.
If the HbA1c control was lost in the intensive arm, there was a reduction of 24% microvascular complications, 15% MI, and 13% all-cause mortality. So titration soon after insulin initiation is the key. So this is an important slide that we should remember. That is, in the initial 12 weeks, 80% of the maximum treatment effect, that is HbA1c reduction, we can see in the initial 12 weeks. And then the early response actually predicts long-term complications, as we discussed. And also the early hypoglycemia. If a patient develops hypoglycemia quite early in the treatment, definitely he will not adhere to his treatment. That's also very important in our practice. So in Asian countries such as India, the average titration dose of basal insulin remains 18 units in practice. So even in practice, we start at about 10 units per day, of course 10 units at bedtime. And then if you want to increase the dose of insulin, of course 2 units every week would be a better choice, and we can reach about 18 or 20 units. Usually in my practice, we'll go up to about 20, and sometimes in few of my patients will go up to 40 units. That's the result of this study. And then titration remains a challenge in India because of so many factors, but the most important factors are, of course, the discontinuation of insulin, the fear of hypoglycemia, and the occurrence of repeated episodes of hypoglycemia, and the lack of titration of insulin. So here we will discuss about the fear of hypoglycemia and the lack of titration of insulin. So as we said, if we develop hypoglycemia, what happens? There will be a decreased desire of the patient for tight glycemic control, reduced willingness to intensify therapy, poor adherence to diet therapy, and compromised compliance for taking medication. Of course, when we use basal insulin, we have to use other OHAs to prevent hypoglycemia as far as possible. Of course, we know we have many drugs like SGLT2 inhibitors, DPP4 inhibitors, and other drugs which will definitely help us to prevent hypoglycemia. And then, as we said, the risk of hypoglycemia, if they develop in the first 3 months, the chances of developing in the next 24 months is about 8.9%. And this is being studied in many countries. So we can see in different countries, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, UK, and USA, they have studied this and they have found out the odds ratio was between 5 to 7. In UK, it was about 19.97. So that's why we should take care that they should not develop hypoglycemia in the first 3 months. And then the balanced glycemic control versus hypoglycemia risk. Here again, the timely, effective, stable glycemic control is important and the low risk of hypoglycemia. And there are few studies, that's a comparison of Glargine 300 and Glargine 100. If you compare this, the Glargine 100 definitely has 48% less hypoglycemia, that is nocturnal hypoglycemia, and 23% less anytime all-day hypoglycemia when compared to Glargine 100. And this is the comparison between Glargine 300 and IDEC 100. So we can see that the HbA1c reduction is similar between both Degludec and Glargine 300. But if you continue in the BRIGHT study, we can see that there was a decreased hyperglycemia with Glargine 300 when compared to Degludec, that is both hypoglycemia, anytime hypoglycemia, and nocturnal hypoglycemia was less with Glargine 300 when compared to insulin Degludec. And then again, as we said, the HbA1c reduction was almost similar, and you can see the reduction of all groups of hypoglycemia, that is the 24-hour confirmed hypoglycemia less than 70, 26% less, and less than 54 mg per deciliter, 37% less, and again, anytime hypoglycemia less than 70, 23% less, and less than 54, again 43% less. And the most important thing is the difference between Glargine 300 and Degludec is the reduction of hypoglycemia with Glargine 300 when compared to Degludec. And then there was a meta-analysis of different studies with Glargine 300. We can see the meta-analysis of addition, AP addition 3 Boost Japan study, where they have studied Glargine 300 in comparison with Glargine 100 and Degludec. And they have found out that they have used a starting insulin dose of 0.2 units per kg body weight. That means it's about 10 to 12 units per day. And then in another 2 studies, they have used 10 units per day. And the baseline characteristics were matched. And if you see the results were almost similar. There was not much change in HbA1c and even the final insulin dose. And the weight gain was less with U300 when compared to Degludec. And again, the hypoglycemia was less with insulin glargine 300 when compared to IDEC-ASP and also glargine 100. And this is one of the important studies regarding the titration of insulin. ATOS Prime, they have studied in different countries, about 18 countries outside United States and Western Europe. And they have divided into four subgroups. Group A, glargine 300, there was a minimal titration of 0 to 2 units. And Group B, the titration of 2 to 6 units. Group C, titration of 6 to 10 units. And Group D, titration of more than 10 units. And they have studied the primary endpoints of the percentage of participants achieving HbA1c goal at 6 months, and the key secondary endpoints of change of from baseline and HbA1c, FPG, and fasting PPG at 6 and 12 months, and hypoglycemia events. You can see the results here. That is, the achievement of HbA1c was better in Group C and Group D. This is probably because of the higher dose of insulin. And also the HbA1c change from baseline to month 6 and month 12, there was not much of a difference. Again, in this study, the titration was made in such a way that there was no hypoglycemia or minimal hypoglycemia in all the four groups. You can see here either Group A, Group D, Group C, Group D, you can see the hypoglycemia was almost similar. That's why the titration is very important when we initiate basal insulin. And as the results, we can see no significant difference in the HbA1c and insulin dose at 24 to 28 weeks, and glargine 300 associated with less weight gain, and then glargine 300 again with less hypoglycemia. And again, in pregnancy, they have studied glargine 300. Of course, now the only insulin which is approved is insulin dependable, and probably glargine, if we are using, we are continuing in some of our patients. So the subgroup analysis of ATOS study showed that the glargine 300 was effective in reducing FPG, HbA1c, and SMBG levels with low rates of hyperglycemia. Among those who titrate insulin, beyond 12 weeks, over time, more patients achieved HbA1c target and increased magnitude of titration without increase in significant hypoglycemia. And also the subgroup analysis suggests that insulin treatment should be individualized and titration should be further optimized. So if you see here, again, early initiation, adequate titration is important for optimal control in diabetes.
For advancing the knowledge regarding diabetes, and I'm so glad that they have all done so well, and my prayers and wishes are with them that they continue to serve the people around, mainly because of their great interest in the subject. Plus, you can do, as you said, it's a responsibility, it is not a charity, as Dr. Manohar already said. It is our duty that we help others and teach them more about it. It is such an easy thing to do, but it is not that difficult if you want to help people about it and spread the knowledge of diabetes so that the treatment can be more normalized and everyone knows what is best for each person. My prayers and wishes are with you, all of you. Thank you so much for inviting me for this after many months of these Disha meetings. Thank you so much. God bless you.
ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಿರ್ಭೀತಿಯಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪರವಾಗಿ.